Hey guys, welcome back to Chickadee Farm. Today I am getting a little bit of a late start. Well, that's not entirely true. I actually did spend a chunk of time out in the garden this morning getting some stuff done. But then I came in and I've done absolutely nothing all afternoon. And now it's 4 o'clock and I have a list of things that I wanted to get done today. And I'm gonna try and get them done. So most of them are small projects that will be done very quickly, but there's quite a few of them. So I thought I'd just take you along with me. Let me just give you a quick overview. So first we have these tomatoes here. So I have a little bit of a mouse problem out in my garden, and pretty much as soon as my tomatoes start looking even like this much blushing, they are chewing on them. So I am trying to pick them as soon as they have any color whatsoever, and then just letting them finish ripening here on the table. So obviously I have degrees of ripeness here. These guys all need to go get washed and get into the freezer, and then I need to put the tomatoes that I picked today out on the table. So that's number one. And then the rest of the stuff that I did in the garden, so I've got some strawberries, some calendula, eggs, I've got a bunch of cucumbers and tomatillos in here, some green beans. So all of that needs to get put away. Although the cucumbers are actually gonna be one of our projects. I need to do a small batch of pickles. And then I took some eggs out of the freeze dryer and and the last thing is, and probably the biggest project of all, is I have a couple of bread baking things that I want to do. Just a typical crusty sourdough baguette, but then I also want to try doing a more soft sourdough bread, so like a sandwich bread. I haven't done that before, but I've done a little bit of research the last couple of days and thought it would be fun to try that out. So let's get started with tomatoes. All right, the first thing that I have been doing is weighing what I get in every day and just keeping track of where I'm at. I actually have a list of how many pounds of tomatoes I need for each of the projects that I'm doing. This is very difficult to see. All right, so it's 10 pounds, 8 ounces, I think, 12 ounces, 10 pounds, 12 ounces. And this basket is 2 pounds, 3 ounces. So 8-ish pounds of tomatoes. All right, so I will mark that down. But in the meantime, let's get these guys that are ripe just picked out here and in a bowl, and then we will get them washed up and into freezer bags. Like I said, this is definitely not ideal. I would much rather my tomatoes be ripening on the vine, although it really doesn't make any difference in flavor. As long as they've started blushing, which some of these have not. Some of them were totally green, so they won't have the greatest flavor, but most of them have had at least some color. And at least, as long as they have at least some color, they're gonna taste the same ripening on this table as they would ripening on the vine. So I am not concerned about that. I have already done, well, we did crushed tomatoes together, and then I did a batch of tomatoes in quarters, just packed in water. Oops, wrong way. So the rest of the projects that I want to do, those guys can wait a bit longer, are tomato sauce, which is gonna take, I think I have 78 pounds of tomatoes set aside for that. I want to do 24 pints. And then I want to do 12 pints each of a marinara and a pizza sauce. And each of those, I think, takes 30 pounds, something like that. Or maybe both of them take 30. Can't remember exactly. Ooh, that one has a problem. We can cut that out though. And then I want to do, I think, probably only six or 7 pints of an enchilada sauce as well. So just trying to keep track of how many tomatoes I'm bringing in and what's in the freezer. right, just gonna get these guys washed up. I think I'm actually gonna leave one of these Nebraska weddings out, and because I haven't tasted one yet, so I think I'm gonna leave it out and do a ELT with it. But we'll get these guys washed up and any additional stems removed and any bad spots taken out, and then we'll just put them into Ziploc bags and into the freezer. But like, yeah, this is the guy that's kind of ripening oddly, so we'll just cut all of that out. Now I have to go find a place for them in the freezer, which is very full. Two things down. And actually I remembered I don't know, is it fifth thing I have to do? Is I got a bunch of pears from the farmer that I went and got tomatoes from early last week. Apparently they just have a big pear tree and they can't use them all, so he just gave me a handful of them. So I think I might make like a pear strawberry crisp because I have some strawberries to use up too. I don't know, sounds like it might be good. Anyway, so that's another thing on the list. Oh my goodness. Okay, what is next? Yes, the rest of the things I brought in from the garden. Get these trays dried so I can put some things that need to be dried on them. The calendula flowers are one of them. But let's get the eggs put in their thing really quick here. Just when I think I've been using all of my eggs, I get 5 more. My girls are good layers. All right, so those are good. These are the strawberries. Yes, I totally use my potting, what are these called? Oh my goodness. My pots for my seedlings and stuff. I wash them out and I use them for gathering stuff in the garden. It makes it easier to keep things separated, so I'm not digging through like I'm doing right now, finding each of the things. So my tomatillos are actually coming on again too, which is exciting. I have a almost gallon bag full of them in the fridge out in the garage. So I did want to do another batch of salsa verde, so that will be great. And then my couple of surviving cucumber plants are still giving me cucumbers. Isn't that great? So I have a bag of those in the fridge, and I have enough to probably do a couple quarts of pickles. So I'm gonna get those done today. And then, oh you guys, these little fish peppers are super spicy. I had no idea, but I put like one about this size in our stir fry last night, and it had some heat to it. It was good heat, but I was surprised. It's a tiny little thing. Anyway, they're great, and the plants are super prolific. All right, just cherry tomatoes. The most exciting thing are I finally am getting green beans. Look at that. Finally. This was the second succession planting that I did, because my first succession did absolutely nothing but die, basically. So that's very exciting for me. All right, let me get these things put in the places they need to go. I think I mentioned that I'm going to probably have to take a dinner break because now it's 5 o'clock. So I just went outside and grabbed some herbs because I'm going to just do a simple pasta sauce with Italian sausage. So I'd like to get that bubbling away while I'm doing other stuff. All right, that can sit there for a second. Let's get the onion and garlic going and the Italian sausage. that get nice and browned while we get the other stuff going here. Actually, I should probably do this onion first. I brought in another one, but I don't think I'm gonna need it. These guys are pretty big. Even this amount of onion is really too much, so I'm gonna only use about half of it. These are, I'm pretty sure these are my Walla Walla onions, and they are just, they're very, very large, which Walla Wallas are known for, so. I do like to have my onions chopped up pretty fine. I just don't like big chunks of onion or really anything in my sauces. It's just a personal preference. So I just put a good glug of olive oil in here, probably a tablespoon or so. And that was probably a half cup of onion. This is a totally made up recipe. I have just kind of figured out what we like over the years, and that's what I use. I suppose at some point I should write it down. This piece of garlic is starting to go, but we should be able to salvage enough of it. Empty. Meat has a nice browning to it, so we will just turn this off until we're ready to add it to the sauce. And the onions, I do like to have them have a little bit of color to them. I think it just adds some depth of flavor to the sauce. So not caramelized fully, but definitely golden brown. So while we're waiting for that to happen, these are herbs from just outside of my green stock. Give them a quick rinse. I just love having herbs right outside, fresh herbs right outside my door. I have to admit, although fall is quickly approaching, and I love fall, it's my absolute favorite time of year, I'm not quite ready for it this year. I have just really enjoyed having all of this fresh produce and my garden out there and fresh flowers all the time. It's been amazing. I'm not ready for it all to go. This is oregano, and then I have some sweet marjoram out there as well, which is very similar to oregano, but it's kind of got a more floral, sweet smell and flavor to it. It's the best way I can describe it. And that, I just have a few sprigs of that, but I have probably 5 or 6 sprigs of the oregano. And you always, when you're using fresh herbs, you do use more, for the most part, than you would if you were using dried. This is thyme that I am doing now. Just pulling it off its stems. And this is probably end up being, I think it's going to be like 7 or 8 sprigs of thyme. If you were using dried, you'd maybe use a half a teaspoon. Probably close to a tablespoon of oregano. Yeah, probably a tablespoon of oregano. Sweet marjoram I'm just adding in. Normally I don't have dried sweet marjoram. Well, actually, I guess now I do, since I grew it this year and have been drying it. But it's not a common herb that people have in their pantries, so it's not necessary. And the reason I'm using it is because I don't really have enough of the oregano. Because because my oregano just did not do well this year at all. Don't know why. All right, and that's the last of the sweet marjoram. And then this is just basil. And I just pulled off 2 good size chunks. And I will chop these pretty finely as well. Goodness, I almost forgot that I also wanted to include parsley. This is stuff I have previously cut and it's just been in the fridge, so. And this probably about the same as the basil, a good handful of it, of just the leaves. And if you were using, again, dried, which you absolutely can, probably a good tablespoon of each of them. If I can get it open, I'm going to add 1 can of tomato paste, and let this cook with the onions and garlic. I'm going to add the garlic here in a second for a little bit to kind of get off the sharp tomato flavor, give them a more roasty taste. And then I will add a can of tomato sauce and a can of water. And then I will add, actually, before I add the tomato sauce and water, I will add about a 1/2 cup of wine, red wine, and let that cook down for a minute. Then I'll add these 2 things. Then I will add the herbs and the meat, and it will just simmer away on the stove. I'm gonna get these cucumbers in some cold water because they need to be washed, and I'm probably not gonna get to them for a little bit yet, probably honestly not until after dinner, and I don't want them to start getting soft. Cucumbers are very fussy and don't like being at room temperature. Off the vine, of course. So we'll just put them in some cold water and just leave them here soak. I'm trying to figure out, I think I want to get the bread going first, and then we will do the crisp so it can get in the oven, and then probably we're gonna have to come back to the rest after dinner. But I'm determined to get this stuff done. All right, bread. So like I said, I'm just gonna do my normal, wow, let me make some space here. Aren't these cute little pears? Yesterday, I pulled out my sourdough starter from the fridge, which has been sitting in there for weeks. And I actually did 2 sets of them because I knew I was going to do 2 different breads. So the first one is just gonna be my normal crusty, cheesy baguette in this one. This is a super simple recipe. It's just 200 grams of starter. And then 350 grams of water. You don't have to be super exact with this, it just gives you a good thing, a good idea of your ratios. And then just mix the water and sourdough starter in so it's all combined. Then we're gonna add around 500 grams of flour, just all-purpose flour. And this you can adjust this, you will adjust this depending upon humidity level, that sort of thing in your home. But we'll start with 500 grams, and then if we need to add more, we will add more. I don't need to get every single last bit off, but here, let me show you what this dough looks like. So it's pretty sticky. And then I'm just gonna cover this with some plastic wrap and let it start rising for about an hour. Then I'm gonna add salt, and I'm gonna do the stretch and fold method with this. I'll show you what that looks like when we get to it. And then it will, so after I add the salt, do the stretch and fold, we'll let it set again for another hour, do another stretch and fold, set for another hour, one more stretch and fold, and then it goes into the refrigerator overnight. All right, first one done. Let's do the second one. This one I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I don't want it to be as sticky and wet as a dough as this one because I need to be able to shape it a little more easily. So I'm not sure what that looks like. So we're gonna do this together. Let me go get some more hot water. I'm gonna start with the same thing, 200 grams of the starter. And I will refeed, probably just one of these. I don't need to keep two of them in the fridge. So I'll refeed them after we're done with this and just let it start bubbling, and then I'll put it in the fridge for storage. All right, so 200 grams of flour. I'm gonna go, because we're gonna add eggs, so I'm gonna start with 200 grams of water. Same thing, just mix up the starter and the water together so it's all combined. And then we are going to add 2 eggs. Actually, I'm going to add 3 eggs since these 2 are small. I'm going to go wash them really quick though. I suppose I should explain why I'm washing my eggs. I keep my eggs on the counter. I don't wash them when I get them, which means I can leave them on the counter for several weeks actually. And I don't know, it just saves room in the refrigerator, but they can be pretty dirty. So before I crack them and put them in something, I do like to wash the shells, just so I don't get anything gross in my food. I should also explain why I use, I said hot water, it's really just warm water. And you don't have to for these recipes. It just, yeast likes warm temperatures. So if you give it a little extra warmth to start off with, you're just gonna have, it'll rise faster, it'll start doing its thing quicker. I don't actually have any scientific backing for that. It's just the way my mind thinks it should work. All right, we are also going to add about a 1/4 cup of sugar. So this is considered an enriched dough. And we're also going to put some olive oil in this. You could use butter. I'm just gonna use olive oil. We're gonna put probably a 1/4 cup of olive oil in. Let me grab that. So this one will actually take significantly longer to rise because it is an enriched dough. All of the addition of the eggs and the oil, it just takes it longer to rise. I'm actually, again, I'm not sure about the science behind it, but that is definitely the case. Maybe I should have used my big bottle of olive oil, made that go a little quicker. It's all right. So 1/4 cup of oil. Probably should be writing this down as I'm doing it, but this is what I have a video for. I can go back and watch it. Mix that all in. I am actually gonna add the salt now for this. And we are gonna go with 1/2 tablespoon salt. All right, and then all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tear this out, and I'm just gonna start adding flour and mixing it until it comes to the right consistency that I feel like is workable. I know, not very, again, scientific. Bear with me. We're gonna start with about 550. See how that goes. Definitely still a little too wet. I'm gonna just add by 50-gram increments, which is about 1/2 cup of flour. Probably gonna have to get in here with my hands and do this. I think actually this is probably gonna be perfect, but I am gonna get in here with my hands, or hand. A little bit of flour on it. And just give it a good knead. See where we get to. Yeah, I think this is gonna be perfect. All right, so this is what we ended up with. It's definitely not, it's still tacky, but it's not sticky. So we're actually gonna do the same stretch and fold method with this. So we're just gonna cover this with saran wrap as well, let it start doing its thing, and in about an hour, do the first stretch and fold. All right, the breads are on their way. Let's get the pears peeled up. I'm going to fill this bowl with some water and a little lemon juice so they don't get brown as I peel them. I did already wash these guys. So, just gonna get them peeled and sliced. actually probably chunked. Strawberries washed. Get some sugar and some flour in them with them. And do just a quick crisp topping. Oh, looks like this one is going bad. Grab a knife and cut that part out now. Actually, gonna taste these, see what they taste like. They're good. Nice firmness right now too. Catching them probably right at the right time. Gonna give these strawberries a quick rinse. They have not been washed yet, and then we will get them added to it. And I'm also going to pop a pot of hot water, or water, on the stove to start boiling for our pasta for dinner. I've added the pears to the strawberries, and I'm not gonna add much more to this. Just a little bit of sugar, some flour so it'll thicken up, and maybe just a tiny splash of cinnamon. Actually, I don't even think I'm gonna do the cinnamon. I think I'm just gonna leave it super simple. Oh, and a little extra lemon juice. And I think I'm just gonna do that because pears can get overpowered really quickly. Their flavor is so mild. And with the strawberries, I think it's fine kind of as it is. My strawberries are turning my pears a little pink. Just gonna put them into this baking dish. Oh, it's the perfect amount. Perfect. I do have my oven, actually it is preheated now to 375. If you're at below 1,000 feet, I would probably keep it at 350. And then I'm just gonna use this same bowl to mix up my crumble topping that's gonna go on top. For this we are going to use quick oats, brown sugar, some more flour, and then I have some butter melting in the microwave right now. All right, so we're gonna do a cup of oats. A cup of, actually more like 3/4 of a cup of flour. Brown sugar, apparently. It's about half a cup. About 3/4 a cup of dark brown sugar. You could use light brown sugar if you don't like the dark stuff. I'm gonna go grab the butter. And this is 5 tablespoons of melted butter, and this is salted butter, so I'm normally, if I was using unsalted butter, I would add salt to this, but since there is salt in the butter, I don't need to. And then just mix that all up together. I like mine to be pretty clumpy and not very dry, which is why there's a lot of butter in it. So not the healthiest thing in the world, but delicious. Just take your topping and sprinkle it on, just like that. gonna put these in the sink and be right back. I'm going to put this on a baking sheet. Actually, I'm going to put some tin foil on here really quick first too. I don't think it's going to spill over, but just in case, I'd rather not make a mess in my oven. All right, clean that up in a second. And then this is just going to go into the oven, like I said, at 375, probably for at least 30 minutes, if not 45. But basically you want to make sure that you want to see the fruit juices kind of bubbling up around the sides, and you'll know it's done, and the top should be nice and crispy and browned. All right, let's get this in the oven. Water is boiling for the pasta, and I am using some fresh pasta that I made a while back. Once again, use up eggs and just froze it. So this is actually my first time trying to use this from frozen. So we'll see what happens. And our sauce is beautiful. So the last little thing that I love to add to my red sauces is just a splash of balsamic vinegar. And it adds just a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of just amazing flavor. So it's totally a great addition. I highly recommend it. All right, so we're just gonna wait for these noodles to be done, and then David and I are gonna have some dinner. Dinner has been had. It was delicious. Now it is time to get back to our things. However, I'm going to open myself very carefully a thing of homemade hard cider. Made this in 2020. Yeah, fall of 2020. So it's been, gosh, almost 3 years. Wow. No, must have been 2021. 2021. Anyway, when I made it, when we bottled it, because I like my hard cider to be sparkling, I think I put a little too much sugar in them. So it likes to overflow. So wish me luck. Whoop, yep. Not terrible though this time. It smells so amazing. Anyway, we can go into more depth about hard apple cider maybe later this fall when the apples come in. For now, let's get back to the bread. It's actually been sitting for a little bit longer than an hour, but it's okay. It's not going to hurt anything if it does. And I have here just some water, nothing special. And we're gonna add a tablespoon of salt. Now this is, again, this is the one that is just the standard crusty baguette recipe. I'm just gonna dip my hand in here and sprinkle some water on the salt. Because you just want to start it getting dissolving. And then you just get in here with your wet hand and you start squeezing it. Because you want to mix the salt all the way through the dough. And it's pretty cool. You can actually feel once it's dissolved and it's mixed all the way through, because you can feel the crystals as you're squeezing it. You have to sometimes get more water because, again, this is a very sticky dough. Or high hydration dough, as the professionals would call it, of which I am not. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm gonna just get a little more water in my hands. And basically all you're gonna do is you pick it up like that and you stretch it. And it down, you just turn and go all the way around the bowl a couple of times, just pulling it up and pushing it in. And this is called the stretch and fold method. And this is basically in lieu of kneading, because this kind of dough would be very difficult to knead because of the high hydration. So I usually go around twice until it's kind of formed a nice firm ball. And then I get both hands wet and just flip it over. And then there you have just your dough. And we'll cover it again for an hour, and then we will just do this 2 more times. And then it will go in the refrigerator overnight to do its final rise, and we will shape it in the morning. So now I'm just gonna do the same thing with the enriched dough. It does look like it's been rising, which is great. So the yeast is doing its thing. All right, gonna do the same to this, and then we are going to do pickles and peppers. Up next, let's do the pickles. I've actually already done the peppers with you. We opened that first jar of the fake, or the copycat Mama Lil's peppers, and they are delicious. They are so good. I mean, it's probably as close as you could get to Mama Lil's without it being Mama Lil's. So I'm going to use the same recipe. So I probably won't show you much of that, but the pickles are new. So let's do those right now. I just took the crisp out of the oven, and this might be a little too much, but this is exactly what I meant. But basically the juices of the fruit start coming up around the sides of the topping. So this is done and just needs to cool quite a bit before we can actually eat it, because it is going to be very, very hot right now. All right, we are finally getting to the pickles. So we're just gonna get these washed up, and then I'm doing refrigerator pickles with these, so I'm not following any specific recipe. Basically just the one I've always used, which is cold packing the pickles with the spices and everything in the jars, and then just pouring over a simple brine of vinegar, salt, and water. We're making dill pickles, just in case that wasn't clear. I don't think I've actually said that yet, so let me get a bowl to put these into. Some of these big guys, I'm not sure. I might cut them into slices maybe? I don't know. I've never done that where I've had some sliced and some whole, but most of these are like this size. So I think it'd probably be okay. Especially since they're refrigerator pickles and they're not going to be heated other than, you know, the hot brine going on top of them. So I'm just gonna get these all washed up, and I'm gonna get their blossom ends cut off, and then I'll bring you back when I am starting to pack them into the jars. So these are the guys that had some little soft spots on them. Actually, before I start doing this, let's get the rest of the spices in these jars. So right now, these are clean jars, and I have some dried dill heads. I have 2 in each of these quart-sized jars. And then we are going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of coriander to each. Teaspoon of celery seed, a teaspoon of mustard seed, teaspoon of black peppercorns. And because we would like these to be spicy, I'm going to add some peppers. So I had one jalapeno and one serrano. Let's see, let's put the other one in there. And then we have a couple cloves of garlic in each of them as well. Now we can cut off the blossom ends and start packing them into the, this is the one. Jars. Actually might have gone overboard with how many jars I prepped, but the thing about pickles is they don't fit really well in jars, although it's easier with these small guys. But you end up not being able to fit quite as many as you think you should be able to in a jar. And then over on the stove, I have a mixture of 2 parts vinegar to 1 part water. And so right now I have 4 cups of vinegar, 2 cups of water, and I still need to add a couple tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of salt. And then that's what we will pour over this once we have them all packed and ready to go. The reason you cut off the blossom ends, by the way, is supposedly it makes them stay crisp longer. This is actually the first year I've ever cut off the blossom ends, just because in the past we've always done such huge batches of pickles at one time. We just were like, that's just would take so much time, so we've never done it. But now that this year I've been doing all small batch pickles, I'm trying it and we'll see what the difference is. Although I also I'm not water bathing any of these, so it's probably not the best experiment ever, but that's okay. I have 2 full jars of mostly the small guys. I think I'm going to actually slice the rest of these because some of them are pretty big. So this will just be a sliced pickle jar, which I've never done with dill pickles. Probably gonna have to stop here in a second to get our peppers jarred up and in canner. All right, peppers are ready to go, so let's get these guys jarred up here. So this was actually a full recipe this time. Last time I only did a half. And I got 1 of these and 1 of these. So half pint, and I believe this is 12 ounces, these tall jelly jars, versus 16 ounces for a pint. With the olive oil in this recipe, you definitely want to wipe these rims really, really well so it doesn't affect your seal. These are new, clean lids. Rings finger tight. And then we will get these in the canner. Here, let me show them to you actually, because they are very pretty with all the colors. Love it. off they go. So as soon as that comes up to a boil, I will set a timer for 25 minutes and then they will be done. So let's get back to these pickles. All right, these are ready to go. My brine is nice and warm. I actually don't want it to be too hot because these jars are not warm. So this is not boiling, so it should be fine. Might need to make more of this brine. Oh, just barely not enough. However, I am not going to mix up a whole new thing of it. I'm just going to do a quick half cup of vinegar with a quarter cup of water. And that should get us where we need to go. It does indeed. All right. That's all there is to it. I'm just gonna put some, I will go ahead and wipe these ribs really quick. Just so there's not vinegar on the outside of them, rusting my rings. And actually, these probably will seal kind of as in the open kettle way, but that does not mean that they are shelf stable. So they will stay in the refrigerator. They probably will be ready, well, these guys will probably be ready like in a couple of weeks. And these guys probably we want to wait at least a month, if not 2, before we break into them. All right, I'm gonna let these set here and cool down before I put them in the fridge. Now it is time to, peppers are almost boiling. I think I said that I was going to do a cranberry orange something. Yeah, I think that's gonna be tomorrow. So I still need to do the dough a couple more times tonight before it goes in the fridge. Ooh, look at this. The enriched dough is actually raising really well. Isn't that pretty? Lovely. I ended up putting a little bit of oil on top because the last time I did the pull and stretch, it felt a little dry on top. So I just put a thin film of olive oil on top of the dough. But so I need to do one more pull and stretch with these guys, and then they'll go in the fridge for the night. And oh, we should taste our crisp, yeah? Let's try that. I think it's cooled off enough that it's not going to broil my tongue. Looks beautiful. Nice and pink in there from the strawberries. Just the right amount of sweet. You can taste the strawberries and the pears. Oh, that's delicious. This is a perfect ending to this day. So good. These pears were the perfect ripeness for this. All right. So we got a lot done. I think we got a lot done. Feels like we did a lot. We did. So we got the tomatoes taken care of, everything from the harvest today put away and taken care of or preserved. We have 2 bread doughs started. We have pickles or peppers canning right now. We have some pickles to go in the fridge, and we have a delicious crisp for dessert. Oh, and dinner. I made dinner too. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you had a good time. I always enjoy my time in the kitchen, even when it's a long night. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great night.